So we'll start off with the flag salute. Thank you. Amy, you want to lead us, please?
Please stand. Ready, salute.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So 4 of the 5 of us board members are here. Board member Stephanie is not here. For those of you that don't know, her stepson was killed in a car accident about a little over a month ago. So before we start the meeting, I'd like to just pause for a minute for a minute of silence in honor of her stepson, Mateus Rogers. We could all just bow our heads for a minute. Okay, thank you. There are no changes to the agenda. Then we're going to start off with item 6, superintendent report.
Yes, thank you, Board. The items that I'll be sharing will come later on in the agenda, so we'll not focus on it.
Board member comment, committee reports. Anybody have anything in our report? Comment? I'll take a motion to open public comment.
Move that we open public comment.
The motion's been made and seconded. All those in favor of opening public comment?
Aye.
Aye. Public comment is now open. I just want to remind everybody, remarks are limited to 3 minutes per person. While we encourage your comments, unfortunately, state law prevents us from discussing items that are not on our meeting agenda. We do take them very seriously, and if appropriate, staff will follow up. Thank you. With that being said, again, just a reminder, 3 minutes. Holly Bishop.
You just want
Holly?
me to speak here? Or-
Holly, you can stand at the podium.
Thank you. I wanted to thank you for allowing me to speak. The board, staff, and teachers, they have all been great.
Excuse me,
Sure.
can somebody adjust her mic?
I can do
I'm
it.
sorry. Let's just speak up.
The board, staff, and teachers, they have all been great to work with and have answered my numerous questions. I'm here today because I started a rant and I never thought it was going to take off like it did. Last year we were told if we got vaccinated, we don't have to wear a mask. And it's sad to see that wasn't the case less than a month when our kids returned to school. I applaud you for being part of the board because unfortunately it seems that the recalled governor is trying to hide behind you. We all know that the governor mandated masks and then he restated that it's up to the local districts to enforce the rule. I can't imagine how it would feel to be a punching bag, and that's exactly what the governor has done to the board. We see that. Don't think that we don't support you. We do. My rant was wondering how many people actually would want to be placed on a listing who don't want their kids to be masked. In a half day, I had 167 names, and I just started for my school, Garen, who last I checked had 653 students. Then I opened it up to the Brentwood Unified School District, and I was flooded. These people did not know me. They were just pleading for help. Not only were parents emailing me, but teachers, faculty, and after talking to certain individuals that have a hand in the board, I found they also agreed. There's really no scientific proof why or reasoning behind it. We just have to mask up. Do it because the state says so. It's sad to see the country that we have gone to, from we the people to politicians with investors. The American Academy of Pediatrics, who's advocating children to mask up, their biggest supporter, Pfizer. What do we have to do for the California Department of Health to listen? Some people said, what if we just post a mandate and let kids be kids? Some people said, what if on August 25th, which gives a month to get the word out and is a minimum day, we held our kids from school? We all know that the school doesn't get money if our kids aren't there. Would the state listen then? And then I had somebody say, if that doesn't work, 3 weeks later on September 15th, we go with our kids to school and say no more. Some people said it was breaking the rules and setting a bad example, and I agreed. But then later on that night, I thought to myself, did Rosa Parks follow the rules? It's disheartening, but we can't continue to stay behind closed doors and hope that this problem will go away. I don't teach my kid to hide from his troubles. They have to be faced. I can't imagine a nervous kindergartner's first day not being able to see his teacher's smiling face. We all know that little children develop who a person is and what they mean by facial expression. I also feel if you want to wear a mask, you should. It should be freedom of choice. I know your hands are tied with the California Department of Health, but I'm asking you to follow as the Newhall School District did in LA yesterday, and I quote, the governing board of the Newhall School District requests that the California Department of Health immediately provide
Okay,
new
thank
face
you. I'm
coverings.
gonna have to cut you off.
Okay, that's fine.
Thank
Thank you.
Amy Carden? Excuse my pronunciation.
Hi, so I understand that mask wearing is a very controversial topic, but I'm here in support of wearing masks. I know that you're going to hear from a lot of very vocal parents, but we know that masks work. They prevent the droplets from spreading, and they help to keep people safe. With this Delta variant, there is no time for us to play around. We need to follow the science, and the science says that masks work. With the Delta variant, we don't know the impact this disease is going to have on children. And so when people say, it's my mask, my choice, your choice impacts other people. Your choice not to wear a mask can impact the health of others. So if we want to keep people safe, I'm urging you to follow the science, follow what the Academy, the American Academy of Pediatrics says, and wear the mask. It's what's best. And really, at this point, it's a piece of cloth over your face. I see kids all the time wearing masks without any problems. We can deal with it. And if they're having issues with it, there are masks that can show the facial expression. So what I'm saying is, we need to get through this pandemic, because if we don't, we're just going to go backwards. So I'm encouraging you to enforce the mask mandate and to keep our kids, our staff, and our teachers safe, because this Delta variant is no joke. Okay, so that's all I have to say about that.
Please just try to be
That's okay, I got
civil
it.
to everybody talking instead of snide comments and whatever else. I appreciate it. Maureen,
What was the first name?
Kareen,
Thank you.
you're welcome. Kind of short. Okay, first off, I want to thank you for allowing me to speak. After all, we should all have the children in our best interest. I know that all the parents standing before you do. If not, we wouldn't be here. In 2018, 643 children ages 0 to 17 died from the common flu. Flu season only lasts 13 weeks. Per the CDC of today, 401 deaths total have happened to children since the beginning of COVID. How is COVID more dangerous than the common flu? Why weren't the schools shut down then? Why weren't the kids wearing masks then? Our children's worlds have been turned upside down since COVID. Why? We have been told by doctors and Dr. Fauci, trust the science. At the same time, we've been told COVID doesn't affect children as much. They recover quicker. They have little to any symptoms. So why mask them? Copenhagen University did a study on 6,000 subjects and wearing masks. It was found that masks, especially the cloth ones, for starters, didn't even meet minimum requirement for proper PPE, that it didn't even stop much. Parents in Florida sent their children's masks to be tested. The cultures came back showing pneumonia, tuberculosis, meningitis, food poisoning, Borrelia, which is found in Lyme disease. And the list goes on.
How is forcing our children protecting them by wearing masks with all these other illnesses? Where are we going to start? When are we going to start looking out for our interests of our children? The Center of Evidence-Based Medicine, Oxford University, summarized 6 international studies, has shown that masks alone have no significant effect in interrupting the spread of the flu or COVID. Masks have no help in blocking aerosol transmission. Our poor children have been pawns. I ask you to not have them as a pawn anymore. When are we going to show them that we care about them? Since COVID, the experts have indicated that there have been alarming increases in emotional, physical, social problems to include self-harm, suicide. Children need to be kids. Please allow them. Thank you for your time.
Jamie Baker. Jamie?
Hello, my name is Jamie Baker, and I'm a Brentwood mom of 2 kids who are assigned to the BUSD. To start off, I want to tell you my children will not be attending Brentwood Unified Schools this year. It would have been easier to stay home tonight and say it's not my problem this year. But I'm here tonight on behalf of other families who couldn't make it, on behalf of families who don't have the time or money to explore other educational options, and on behalf of families who don't know they could even come here and speak tonight. Lastly, I'm here on behalf of my family who would like to return to public school one day. My family believes in the public school education, but my children will not attend BUSD schools while there is a ridiculous mandatory mask policy. Teachers have been vaccinated. Statistically, children who are not affected by this virus, they are not affected by this virus. Our children can go to the movies, Disneyland, a restaurant without a mask. So why are they being forced to wear masks at school? I'm guessing it's all liability, and the schools and districts are afraid. So we're asking you to stand up for our children. We will sign waivers limiting your liability if we need to. Masks should be a personal choice made by individual families. We're asking you to remove any form of punishment for not wearing masks. Please give us this choice for our children. If we don't stand up now, I suspect there will be many more families leaving the school district this year and next. This is preventable, and we can stop it now by saying enough is enough. Thank you.
Carolina?
I have a list actually for tonight. I listened to the last school board meeting, and frankly, I was severely disappointed in the 3 gentlemen, members of the school board, who were very blasé about having people speak at the school board meetings. You may not realize this, but the city council meeting comes the day before your meeting. The city council meeting's on a good night. The agenda packet is 1,500 pages. Tonight, your packet was 752 pages. I waited through the entire thing because I'm a responsible constituent. I elected you, number 1. Number 2, a lot of the presentations in the packet are alphabet soup, which are unintelligible to those of us in the community who are not part of the school board or the school system. So I could spend my entire 3 minutes asking, what does this mean? What does that mean? What does this mean? What does that mean? I'll give you an example, not to pick on Mr. Schmidt, but Robin's presentations are very robust and they need a lot of explanation, which he does so during the meeting, which is not attached to the agenda packet. So I could ask better questions after I hear him speak. Now, we elected you, and sitting through a long meeting like tonight with all these parents here is too much for you. I would request and suggest that perhaps you not be part of the school board when your term is up. We, the parents, are the ones that come here to ask you questions for clarification and to make our statements heard. So please think about this moving forward. Number 2, are we sharing supplies this year? Again, with everything going on, I got the letter from the teacher saying, pencils, 3 dozen, keep some for yourself, the rest are to share with the class. I just want to make sure that we have very clear guidance on what's going to happen on the 28th of July. And the last thing is, from the last speaker, I want to make something clear, which I don't think has been made clear. which is the school board here cannot make the guidance from the county board of health any less strict than they receive. So they can't vote to make masks optional, because then every single person sitting before you is personally liable if somebody gets sick or dies in the district. Now think about how many letters you got last year with people who were exposed to COVID and how many people who actually had COVID. That's how many lawsuits we could have. So if you want your tax dollars going towards lawsuits, that's great. But the district will also be liable. So please understand this. Your time would be better suited yelling at the county board of health. They're the ones that sent down the guidance.
We'll get there too.
Thank you.
Ashley.
Okay. Good morning, members of the board. My name is Ashley Chandler, and I'm the mother of a 1-year-old and the bonus mom to a 7-year-old boy at Pioneer. Over the past year, I've watched you turn his love for learning into a nightmare. Countless hours in front of some makeshift classroom, in front of a screen while we all held on and watched the demise of our children. Week after week, we trusted you, we listened to you, we followed the curriculum, we asked teachers, we acted as teachers and took time off work and did it all. We watched you overlook special needs children as if they were invisible. Now you're pretending again as if they don't matter. You're telling me that as a parent, I do not get to parent. That simply is not good enough for me. A mask mandate isn't one size fits all. How is my child going to learn social behaviors without seeing someone's face? How will his speech therapist be able to adequately assess him? And how will he learn from them when their face is covered? It's improbable. Masking our children for 6 hours a day is downright abusive, draconian, and lacks any true science. Research and science have shown severe psychological effects. Hypoxia, shortness of breath, increased lactate concentration, decline in pH levels, self-contamination, inflammation, fight or flight responses, and PTSD, insomnia. My son with autism, who is my stepson, his increases tenfold, which also includes his echolalia, which is what we call scripting. Scripting is something that they do to comfort themselves in stressful situations. Does this sound like a learning environment to you? Does this sound rational? This sounds downright abusive to my child, and it is, and I will not stand for it. We can go through all the reports that I have listed. Other people have done so as well, so I'll just go ahead and skip over that. However, many state and local governments have made nose and mouth covering mandatory for the children. Evidence base for this is weak. So much so that LA County Santa Ana School District, as previously mentioned here tonight, voted to make masking a choice. A choice, a decision that parents make, not the school board. Enough is enough, and it's time for you to take direction from your constituents, the people who voted for you, and the people who, if unheard, will surely vote you out. Members of the board, you have responded to several emails with the same blatant disinformation, refused to answer questions within emails, and wrote that it's not up to the board that you are mandated to follow California Department of Health's mask mandate. That's simply untrue. The state has left it to the discretion of the school board, and the CDC has said that children should not be masked if they do not pose a threat to illness or morbidity. Again, I'll skip over some more facts for you as I'm running out of time. We decide what is best for our children. Masks should be a choice. You may not mandate anything for my child. I stand here with parents who are willing to step away from BUSD and take your state funds with us. I do not consent. I will no longer accept this of my child. And as a board member, you shouldn't either.
Ryan Pereira.
So first off, thank you for hearing us. We appreciate it. I want to start off with last year was rough, I'm sure, for not only my children, but everybody else's children. I get it. It's new. It's a pandemic, so-called. The whole mask thing to me, the more I research it, is there's no science behind it. It's damaging the kids. I know I am mask and fit tested trained through work, and Cal OSHA flat out says a man my size shouldn't be wearing a mask more than 2 hours at a time. Imagine what that's doing to a child. Their lungs aren't even fully developed. Okay, you're destroying their social skills, their self-esteem. They're going nuts. They're not going in the right direction that we want to raise our kids to be. It's taking away their rights, their freedom. As a parent, I feel it's attacking my rights. That's my kid. I should have my rights. They should have their rights. And basically, we're being told it's not up to us. It's up to not only you guys, but the people above you. Now, maybe you don't get the final call, but I think you can push for it. After this, I hope you see that there's plenty of parents that are willing to stand up to this, because I'm not against people wearing masks. If you want to wear a mask, but that's your choice. And it's also my child's choice not to wear a mask. I don't think it should be enforced at all. There's absolutely no science behind it. There's way more things that can hurt a child with the mask on than without. It traps contaminants, dust. They breathe hot air all day. It's not good for them. And I just don't know how I'm going to deal with. My son has ADHD. He freaks out with the mask on. Am I going to get phone calls every time he can't keep the mask on? How's this going to work? My daughter has asthma. She can't have the mask on. Do I need to bring medical notes? Is that okay? I don't know. Is that going to work? Because from what I hear is, as long as you have a medical reason, you don't have to wear them. So I really want to know how this is going to take place. Because I'm sure if this carries on, everybody's going to end up having a medical issue to where they don't have to wear masks, or people are just going to pull their kids out of school. I would much rather work a bunch of overtime than put my kid in a charter school that doesn't enforce rules that don't matter. Especially when you say they have to wear them in class, but outside there's no more social distancing and they don't have to wear them. It's very hypocritical. In class, wear them. Outside, don't wear them. But you're touching and playing and goofing around. It just doesn't make any sense. Thank you.
Is it Stephen? Stephen?
Stephen Whitman?
Yeah.
Do you want me to hold your baby?
Hold my baby. Hi, I don't really have a prepared statement, just some observations. The COVID is RNA-based respiratory disease. Over time, respiratory diseases can increase in infectiousness, but tend to decrease in severity as the strains kind of adapt to what's in the environment. If they're too aggressive, they kill off the host before they can spread. So the natural adaptation is to increase how quickly they spread, but become less dangerous. It's not very practical to expect an eradication of COVID. We were able to do an effective eradication of polio because it doesn't spread through respiratory, it spreads through food and water. So you can cleanse what you're eating and drinking while you're vaccinating the population against a specific strain. But because it's spread through food and water, it mutates much more slowly. So you can have a vaccine that's effective for longer. But with the Delta variant and Kappa variant, we're talking about variants that have come out globally, which is very similar to how you see with getting a new flu shot every year. You can't eradicate the flu or the common cold because there's too many strains spreading too quickly through respiratory mutation. So you just have to hit a point where you go, okay, we had the initial impact of COVID. We didn't know what it was going to do, so we took precautions. But when do we hit a point where we're like, this is an acceptable level? Because we're not going to eradicate. We can get rid of some of the most dangerous strains, but you're never going to get rid of every strain. And if we're looking globally for new strains, you're always going to find it. Thank you.
Jonathan Collins.
Why do we have to wear a mask in school? Do we have a right to choose whether we want to wear a mask or not? My mom and dad knows what's best for my sister and me. And it's just not good for your body to wear a mask for 6 hours, and I miss how school used to be. And it's been a year and a half since I talked to my friends, and it's just not fair. And other kids feel claustrophobic, and that is not good. This is a free country. This is America. This country was founded on freedom, and because we're getting forced to wear masks, we can't breathe. And it gives me anxiety and can't focus good. And if I can't focus good, I fail on work, and I want to get good grades this year. It's my last year of elementary school, and I don't want to wear a mask for 6 hours a day on my last year, and I just won't come anymore. So I want my last year not wearing masks. And if we are wearing masks, I can't be the teacher well. And if we are wearing masks, if I run into the teacher, he or she won't recognize me because she or he has never seen my face before. I might as well put kids in bubbles because it's exactly what it's like. And just like muscles, you can't breathe. If the teachers have the choice of wearing a mask, then I should too. And school needs to so much to other kids, and just like me, they don't want to wear a mask. Some only have a year or two, and just 1 year without masks is good for me.
Is there anybody else that I did not collect? Anybody else want to speak that hasn't filled out one of these? Can you fill it out? Just about,
I didn't fill it out, but is it okay if I speak?
I need to have your name for public records for the
Okay,
minutes.
sure, yeah. I can give you my name.
You can go ahead and speak as long as you.
I'll fill it out afterwards and give it to you.
No
Is that okay?
worries. What's your first name?
Mustafa. Okay, so my name is Mustafa Ibrahim. This is my first time doing this. I have 2 girls at Pioneer. And so I just want to kind of just give you guys a little perspective. I was born in Afghanistan. I lived in Afghanistan and Pakistan until I was 10 years old. Over there, it gets, a little extreme with religion. They make women cover up, which is kind of the same thing. But my thing to everybody here is just as long as people have an option, it works out for everybody. Because if, let's say, if masks work, then people should have the option to protect themselves. If they want to wear two to make up for somebody else's mask, they can do that. But forcing everybody to wear a mask is basically like forcing women to cover up. I mean, excuse me. Maybe you guys all agree with the mask thing as board members, but maybe next year it's going to be something else that you don't agree with. And if people don't have an option or choice, then basically like you're going to be on the wrong side of it next year. So I just wanted to let you, just kind of give my point and kind of give you guys a different perspective.
Anybody else? And I'll take a motion to close public comment.
Move that we close public comment.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor of closing public comment? Signify by aye. Aye. 4-0. At this point, I'd like to take a 5-minute break just in case people, I know there's kids that probably go home and do homework. So if those of you that want to leave, go ahead. If not, you're more than welcome to stay. So we take a 5-minute break, please. Facility students.
Do you have a cap to put over the camera?
Don't have anything like that.
Can we put a piece of paper over it? Can we just put a piece of paper over it? Perfect.
Thank you. Yes. Thank you.
Sets the pickup further out. I don't think we happen to find. I'll take a look. You get over the
Yes.
Well, it's for sixth grade, seventh grade. We have 4 Oh, yeah.
Sorry. This is so close.
Okay, we're gonna get started. We're gonna move down to item 8, consent items.
And I did want to make sure that the public and the board is aware that there is a walk-in replacement item for item 8.1 personnel report. It's updated for the run of hiring that happens in July as we prepare for this. So that was out on the table for everyone. And then I'll turn it over to Dr. Eden for item 8.
Yeah, there's lots of things to highlight here, but one of the things that I want to pull out and do a quick introduction is we have Adams principal, Lauren Briggs here, who's had that title now for at least a couple weeks. And we'd like her to, she brought her new assistant principal, assuming you approve her tonight. I'd like to ask Lauren to introduce her.
Hi, my name is Lauren Griggs, principal at Adams Middle School, and I'd love to introduce Alison Pettit to you. She is our selection for our vice principal. She's coming to us with more than 10 years of experience in education with a background in counseling, policy writing, and discipline improvement. She's worked in Baltimore City schools, Oakland schools, and most recently in Clayton Valley. And in her interviews, we were really pleased to see that she's highlighting and prioritizing many of the same things that we are trying to do in Adams. She was a natural choice for us, and we're really excited to bring her on, and we'd love for you guys to get to know her.
Welcome, Allison. We're glad to hear you did a great job in your interviews. You want to share anything about yourself real quick?
That was a good overview.
Yeah.
That was pretty much it. Yeah, I mean, I think what I would just highlight, right, is, I have a background in counseling that I'm really proud of, and that's where I'm the most passionate, I would say. But yeah, I've been an elementary school teacher. That's where I started, with a classroom of first graders, and then I've worked up into high school, and so I'm just really excited for this opportunity and to be in this community. So I'm open to questions or to share anything, but I'm just really honored and humbled to be here. I appreciate it.
Well, we're glad you're here, and assuming the vote goes well, we'll clap afterwards,
I
right?
get it, thank you.
Yeah.
Do you have any family members?
Me?
Yes.
No.
Okay.
If there were no other questions or if somebody wanted to pull anything else from the consent items, I move that we approve items 8.0 through 8.8.
So motion second.
Second.
All in favor of approving consent items 8.0 to 8.8, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
4-0 approved.
Congratulations, Alison. Make sure she knew it was official.
Someone make sure you have nobody here. Hearings and appeals, we have none. Presentation out of closed session. During closed session, the board approved the settlement in student versus Brentwood Contra Costa Superior Court action number C-19-01293, which was negotiated by and which will be paid by Northern California Relief, the joint powers authority of what the district is a member. The vote out of closed session was 4-0 to approve this. Uh, 10.1, staff will provide the board with COVID-19 update. Dr. Eden?
Yes, good evening again, board. So I wanted to bring you up to date with the guidance that was issued regarding schools. So on July 12th, the California Department of Public Health issued their guidance for us. I didn't pull everything out of it, but I pulled some key guidance information to walk through with you. So masks are optional outdoors in all K-12 school settings. But K-12 students are required to mask indoors. There are exceptions that are listed. There's a hot link there, but it's right on the CDPH face mask guidance website. And we also have a nursing staff that works through those medical exemptions if that's the case. Also, all adults in K-12 school settings are required to mask as well if they're in indoor spaces and they're sharing those spaces with students at the time. So following them issuing that guidance, almost immediately they issued a clarifying revision. And the revision didn't change the fact that masks were required, but as some of the speakers alluded to, it changed the focus of the enforcement. So basically, this is the language that was struck out, and this is the language that came back. And really what the CDPH said in the original guidance was that schools must exclude students if they don't have a mask. And what this guidance said is the enforcement, how the school district goes about enforcing the guidance is up to them, and they assume that school districts would use the protocols that they used at the end of the previous year. So when we were in hybrid, we had similar protocols. So physical distancing went away. So this was the guidance, again, straight from the document, saying that recent evidence indicates that in-person instruction can occur safely without minimum physical distancing requirements when other mitigation strategies like masking are implemented. This is all from the guidance. Cleaning, so this is something that's changed over time from the initial cleaning recommendations. So they're recommending that cleaning once a day is enough in most cases. They do recommend in higher use surfaces of disinfecting more frequently, and then to have a response, which we do if there is somebody sick, and have a different cleaning and disinfecting protocol. So just pulled some other guidance. There's lots of stuff in there, and then Also, then the Contra Costa County Department of Public Health also provides further clarifications when there's questions that come up. One of the things that was guidance was that schools should really limit non-essential visitors. So that's something that we're working through. We typically have, especially in our elementary school, lots of volunteers and visitors in, so we want to make sure we have a safe practice for that. And so, and you will find in the guidance, there's some alluding to in places where there's moderate to high COVID-19 transmission, we should be more careful about that. Meal service. So the guidance is really to have students eat outside as much as possible. That is the goal from the health department and from the California Department of Public Health. They you can eat inside, but they want the spacing that if you've seen where how it was described to us is that obviously people could have their mask off while they were eating. But that to put it on right afterwards, especially if they were inside. And then really one of the things that's been more and more emphasized recently is ventilation. So having proper ventilation. That's one of the reasons we invested in the air filters that we had last year, that we continue to have, and recommending some level of windows being open and doors being open depending on the day to get some airflow through. So Contra Costa Health Services followed up with some additional guidance. And you may have seen that the Bay Area health officials, there were 7 counties initially that did it, recommended face coverings indoors for all people. That really doesn't have a large impact on us, but it is something that they're recommending in our community, so I wanted to share it. It's not a requirement, it's a recommendation from them as well. So that's the guidance that I have that's from the document, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Can you talk a little bit about the exemption process and how that works?
Yeah, so let's see, I'm trying to think of, Mr. Calabrese, do you want to touch on that real quick? 'Cause
Yeah,
you handled that.
it's a medical exemption form, so the parent needs to go to the doctor, have that filled out, and then our nurses and admin will review that for each student individually.
Thank you.
I have a question. What is your plan?
I'm sorry, this isn't a time, this is a
Oh, I thought you
meeting.
just asked, I thought you just said.
No, it's just, so this one, it does get kind of confusing at
Okay.
meetings sometimes, but it's a meeting for the public to be able to watch the board ask meetings, so the public comment is time to participate, so thank you.
That was all my questions.
There was nothing on any aspect from these reports or recommendations.
Well, so the mask guidance is that, it's guidance, and it's a requirement. So the masking is a requirement, the enforcement is up to each school district how they're going to approach it as they went forward. The rest of it, those are the things that are mandatory, the masks are mandatory. The other things, it is guidance. So the thing that you always have to remember as a school district though, is there is risk in not following the guidance that's put before you.
That risk would be?
Well, the risk would be, you could have a potential health challenge, you could have liability issues. If you were to go against guidance from public health in any of these issues and something where somebody got sick and could trace it to that, you could be professionally liable for that as a board member as to that.
Was there any discussion, change seems to be a regular happening, has there been any discussion of direction of change for this policy to lighten this up or to change this up or anything like that?
You know, unfortunately, we're not privy to the guidance comes to us, and people always ask, why didn't you tell us before? It's because it shows up to us at the same time it shows up to anybody else. And so we're not privy to any of those discussions as to what might change going forward. Yeah.
I think I bring it up also all the time. Our teachers, will they be allowed to wear a clear face mask? And also the students, so you get that, and again, for hearing impaired and other things, it's very difficult to talk with a mask on or anything. Is that something we're gonna allow as far as the clear face mask? So,
Yeah, so there are exemptions in the mask guidance that we follow that typically goes through the nurse. There are times where it can go through a special education process or a human resources process, depending on whether the issue is around a staff member need or a student need. But that's still, the guidance itself follows through our district nursing staff, and they work through that guidance and trying to find what will work for that person if there is an issue.
so maybe it's old. Didn't we at one point say that if that was an option to wear?
Yes, the state at one point said that it was an option to wear, and then they said it wasn't. And then now there's an option as a substitute with medical guidance, and it's a clear face shield with a drape that hangs below it.
So the students will be expected to eat outdoors for breakfast and lunch.
That is the recommendation from the.
What about for teachers and staff? Are they expected to eat outdoors too?
So the difference is, right, is that the guidance around schools is different than the guidance around workplaces. And so workplaces have different rules. They fall under the Cal OSHA rules. And so adults, if there were no children around, if there was two teachers eating in a classroom, under the guidance that they were both vaccinated, they could sit there and eat with their mask off, provided that the school district, and Roxanne will help me if I get this wrong, provided that the school district has had a process in place to where they verify the vaccination of those staff. So one of the things that we've been asked to do is send out verification to our staff of whether they've been vaccinated or not, so that we can, in making those determinations, allow that to happen as part of the workplace.
I just think, like, sometimes, all the fourth grade and fifth grade teachers would be eating at the same time. Teachers lounge, would they be expected to eat out? Well, I guess they're different.
No, so that would be, again, it's, even though they're adults that work in a school setting, if there's not, the guidance is really about children being present.
I mean, I'm sure things are gonna change as it has throughout everything.
It could have changed while we were in this meeting.
Correct.
Yeah.
And it's unfortunate it's unfortunate though, because we're trying to get as many people vaccinated as possible. I think 12 years old, you're gonna be, what, seventh grade, in the sixth grade, your middle schoolers, it's kind of, to me, it's just kind of counterproductive that we're trying to give people incentive to get vaccinated and the rules change every 45 seconds. But with that being said, I just, it's unfortunate that we have to take the brunt of all.
Yeah, the inconsistencies are different.
Unbelievable.
Unbelievable.
And just as a footnote, and maybe you know more about it than I do, the pediatricians came out with their own guidelines yesterday, going against CDC's guidelines. So it just makes it difficult for everybody to understand what's going on.
Yeah, I think
that's my 2 cents.
Yeah, I think that throughout the pandemic, we've seen different guidance come from different groups, right? And it is challenging to keep up with. Just as one of the things that spurred in me is that what we heard from the health department is they're still anticipating that from 5 to 12-year-olds that vaccination will be ready and available in September/October. Is what the anticipation is now. But for younger children, it'll follow later on. After that, they divided that up.
All right, I just encourage our people, though, if they have medical reasons, to please start with that now, just so we don't get inundated with all kinds of requests and stuff, so.
Yes, we're required to go through the doctor process, yes.
Anybody else have any questions? Alrighty, we're gonna move down to 10.2, the budget update, 45-day revise.
Good evening, board. Here to give you a quick update. As you know, the state's adopted the budget. And I'm going to walk very quickly through some of the items that have come up and many of the items that we have to maintain our vigilance on. First is Ed Code basically states that 45 days after the governor signs the budget, I need to bring an update to the board, especially if there's changes to the budget that the district has to consider within 45 days. That falls on August 16th, which is after our board meeting in August, which is why we bring you the budget update. So we'll talk a little bit, well, and if I go back, what's really significant here is if the budget, if the state were to make a change to their state budget that affected us, where we had to make reductions, where we had to take revenue out of the budget, or do other things, this would be a much more formal information where I'd have to bring those changes to you at the 45-day budget. And if you as I've stated in my review, that's not an effect on us this year. And I'm going to walk through that there are some changes, but nothing that negatively affects us at this time today based on what we know. So one of the items that is technically the biggest change that we're aware of relative to our general fund is the unemployment insurance at the May revise was projected to go up to 1.23%. In 2021, we paid 0.05% for unemployment insurance. So the legislature, the governor got together and this is one of the compromises they made. They reduced, they didn't reverse it, they reduced the unemployment insurance from 1.23% of every payroll to 0.5%.
Robert, was it 0.05 or?
It was 0.05 before. So they've taken it from 1.23, which was like a 200% increase or 2,000% increase, to 0.5, which is still an increase. So when I talk about the estimate of reduction, and Melissa Guzman, my accounting coordinator, we've looked at this on and over, read the bill, and so it's really the estimated and reduction to our expenditures for that driven cost is about 475, and the packet that was published was 575. Because it has to do with the 0.5 versus the 0.05, and we're going to monitor that very closely. So it's still an increase from 0.05, but it is a reduction from 0.1, 0.23, and it is a positive effect as we get to reduce an expenditure. And we have to monitor that. And they're projecting the 0.5% is going to be ongoing for 2 to 3 years. And usually once they get it in there, it never comes back out. So we're going to have to watch that. One of the other big things we expected in the budget, and there was lots of noise in the budget, is some additional relief to our STRS and PERS payments. There was no relief whatsoever. They took credit for what they've done before, which has an effect on what's already in the budget, but there was no additional relief this year with all the one-time money they used. We're awaiting additional details on the following items, and what I'll state on this is when Governor Brown and the legislature worked through and moved to the LCFF allocation formula, Governor Brown essentially eliminated all categorical programs. He took all the specialized programs, he threw them into the LCFF, gave them to districts, says, here's your pot of money, you get general fund and you get concentration dollars. You as a district get to decide what you do. Subsidiary, right? The fact I can remember that word tonight is surprising. With all of the one-time money and just everything that's going on, the legislature and the governor are moving back to the world of categoricals. And so as I walk through these are all new programs that the legislature are proposing that districts take on. The other thing I'll say is they're taking money that can come to us, an ongoing money for us to do things that the board gets to decide on. And then we're putting it in a pot that we can only have to spend on specific things in specific ways. And it doesn't help what we're doing on the general fund side in salaries and payroll and special ed costs, etc. So I'm going to walk through these really quickly. There's an educator effectiveness block grant, which is really going to be money specific to professional development for very specific purposes. There's some expanded learning funds for extended learning. This will be targeted to students in TK through 6, and we'll get money for that. And it's running a before and after school program that makes your schools open 9 hours a day, plus an additional 30 school days. And we're going to get about $1.2 or $1.3 million on that based on the estimate. Again, that's in a pot of money that we can only spend on that. It's very specific. There's some special ed funding line items that they're in the budget. One of them that's a positive is They actually applied the COLA additionally to the special ed base funding. At the May revise, we were about 685 or so, and that revenue is going to increase to about 750 in a kid. In Contra County, we're already above average, so we're waiting for the SELPA to tell us sort of how that affects us. It's positive, somewhere in probably the neighborhood of about $80,000-$90,000. I'll take it. I can't look at Jeff because he says that's more money for me. No, it'll reduce our contribution requirement for a little bit, for a little time. There also are two pots of money coming to us from special education. One of it will be one-time learning support for new programs. And again, they're going to give us money. We can spend it on special education, but we can't spend it on anything we're already doing. So we have to create new programs. So we have to still pay for everything we're doing now, and we have to create new programs with the new money we're receiving. That's how I'm interpreting that. The second one is we're getting some preschool early intervention program for new programs. And that's sort of the money we got before that started to offset the cost of us running our own preschool program, which we're required to do. But they're giving it to us in money that we can only spend on new things as well. So we can't pay for our current preschool program. We got to pay for new and add-ons. And as you know, we already make a significant contribution to from the general fund to special ed because we don't get enough revenue in special ed for the base program. There's some information coming out from the legislature that will mandate a free meal and free breakfast, free lunch and free breakfast for every student K-12 across California. This year, the Department of Agriculture has already provided that service. So the Department of Ag's already said, we're going to provide free lunch for every kid all the way through June. They've already extended that timeline. The state's going to backfill anything that's different. And then they have to negotiate how they get the funding to pay for it in 22-23. So we know that it may be coming, but there's no funding that goes along with it. So we have to wait and see. But again, that's money that's going to go into the food service program from the state budget.
Have we advertised that?
Yeah, Kristen is doing a great job with the principals related to a couple of things. There's a bunch of stuff on the website, and I know she keeps the principals updated on an ongoing basis. And I know she's meeting with her staff to ramp up to make sure that we can serve the kids with the meals that we're providing.
Thank you.
And this will be a daily meal at school, so it won't be the pickup program. It's feeding kids every day with breakfast and lunch. Some other things that you've also heard is the governor and the legislature have agreed to create a new grade level for all kids, starting that they're going to call TK. We already have TK, but they're going to expand it to every kid that qualifies. That transition will start in 22-23, and it'll take 3 to 4 years to implement. We're waiting for the final guidance on that. They won't be talking about that till August at the earliest. We will receive a small portion of planning funds this year to help us assist in what we do with that. And there will be some funds come to us for facility use in the out years that is not allowed to use for portables. So you can either build new buildings or retrofit what you have. And like us, most districts are short on facility, big on kids. So adding, and as you know, it takes about 2 years to add any facilities in a formal way. So we're not exactly sure what that line item is on that. So we're watching that, and there's going to be a lot of conversation on that. That's not what tonight's presentation is about. It's just it's coming. And you know there's a lot of details to work out. One of the things the legislature did do is they increased the LCFF calculator concentration funding by 15%. That's a huge thing, but we don't get any of that. We don't qualify for concentration funding. We get supplemental funding because we have about 32% free reduced unduplicated students. You have to have 55% unduplicated students to qualify for that additional 15%. So we won't get any of that. The extension of the classified school summer assistance program, we have very few people participate because of our school year, but that's available to those staff if that's available. There's some other statewide categorical targeted support. There's some bias PD, there's some broadband. We don't have the details. That wasn't in the legislature. We're still waiting for those details to come out in terms of what it means. Anything that comes out, we're of course going to gladly accept on behalf of our kids and make sure it gets used in the right way, but we have to wait for the guidance. The one comment that I'll make about broadband is I love money for broadband, but it's really targeted for rural kids, and it usually is money that goes to the telecom companies, and then we just have to communicate to the families about how, what website to get to so they can apply for it. So I hope it gets easier for that, but we're watching that one as well, because we do have some kids in some rural areas around here that have a really hard time getting internet service. Then there's also the last thing that they use some of their funding for is make a reduction to all the deferrals we have. As you remember, in the 2021 budget, they deferred cash into the following year. That was a budget reduction to schools at the state level, not on our level. We got the full budget, but we didn't get the cash that came along with it, and the state got the credit for making that budget reduction. Now they give the money back to take those deferrals back. Do we see any of that new money? No, but the governor and the legislature get all that credit for putting the money back into education. So they get the Prop 98 credit, but we see no new money, but we don't have the cash deferrals as well. So some assumptions to remember, that our current enrollment is ADA is based on last year's ADA, so we're held to last year's ADA. We're projecting about 75 kids in the next 2 years each, and that's over our actual ADA this year, not a reported ADA, because we know what our ADA is about projected, and it's building on that, and I'll have a slide coming up to talk about that. We also know that our reminders that we have step and column costs every year. We know that we have a built into the budget an increase in special education contributions, and we have budgeted an increase in liability insurance. This year we did not see one, and there's lots of reasons that we could talk about. But we've had a couple of good years, and they look at when they calculate your premium, they look at the last 5 years. So every time they go forward, a last year falls off. So when those last years fall off, we have a better premium, and we'll just have to monitor that. So if we look at the enrollment history, you've seen this graph before. We're the black line at the bottom currently. That was last year. Chris is going to talk about current year. And that's just a reminder that, there's a reality of watching where our kids are and how many we have. This is the slide that I wanted to talk about again. The green bars is what are funded at, and the blue bars is the actual ADA. So in 1920, the blue bar matches the green bar. In 2021, the governor made our actual be our reported. So he made the blue bar higher for us, even though our ADA was actually lower. In 2021, we get to use that ADA to do our revenue in 21-22, but the blue bar is actually probably our projected ADA this year. And the red is the difference between what our actual ADA is and what we're getting to get a report because of what last year's ADA is. Next year, when you add the 75, it's the 75 on top of the blue bar, and then the 75 on top of the blue bar going out. Does that make sense? And remember, as we're funded on the green bar, if we have new staff and other cost increase, we have kids that grow within the red bar, but we don't overcome that red bar, we don't get any new revenue that goes along with that. Other reminders, we're just finalizing some of the negotiation settlements that we talked about at the last meeting. At the time that I put this together, we had 5 new teachers that have been hired since we did the budget adoption. That's because we're seeing enrollment growth that Chris gets to take credit for in a minute. We're also monitoring our special ed costs. Really, as we bring kids back to school, we really need to look at what's going to happen to our staffing needs, especially on our classified side, our aides in the classrooms, as we return to school and bringing those back up to the mandates. And then we also have additional instructional and assessment needs with the return to school about making up some of the credits, assessments that are going on. So we have some contract work that we're using to start to do that. And Jeff and his team are working really hard to keep those constricted, but we have to do what we're required to do to provide those services to kids and complete those IEP assessments. So what does it mean? As I said earlier, there's really no significant changes from the May revise other than the unemployment insurance, but we continue to monitor that, and that will be trued up. That first interim will true all that up. It's just a reduction in expenditures. It's not any reduction in revenue, et cetera. We're working on the final details of impacts and on the districts from the trail bills. There were 4 of them this year in the process. He just signed the last of them last Thursday, and the legislature is in recess. So whatever issues there are doesn't get solved till the middle of August at the earliest when the legislature comes back from recess and starts to do all the trailer bill language. So it may be October before we know all of the details on some of that. But again, those are all gonna be categoricals, nothing that really impacts our bottom line yet. Fiscal conditions are still positive at the state, and technically, currently, even now, they're still above the revenue at the state level and taxes level are still above the governor's projections, so we'll have to watch that. The factors will most likely change, up, down, we don't know, we're gonna have to monitor that, but right now, it's positive. And we're still waiting on guidance on all the new categorical funding and specific, and if you want, I can spend hours and hours talking about the categoricals, and you can know, no one wants to hear it anymore, you know. Next steps, the unaudited actuals will come to you at the September 22nd board meeting. We're gonna continue to monitor the state actions by the legislature and monitor the federal actions, because there are several line items coming from the federal level relative to special education and additional after-school support. But again, that's an October funding cycle, so there's time before we get what that is, even though we'll have to deal with it this year. The fifth interim budget will come to you on December 15th, and the 45-day budget is in front of you this evening for your review and presented for approval. Be glad to answer any questions.
Thank you. That's an action item, so I'll take a motion to approve the budget update and the 45-day revise.
I move that we approve item 10.2 budget update, 45-day revise.
I'll second.
Motion and second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? 4-0 approved. Thank you, Robin. Good job. USD summer program update. It's an information item.
Yeah, Jeff?
Sure. Good evening, board. Would you mind casting it for me, Robin? I'm here to talk a little about our extended school year for this year. Okay, so we had extended school year this year, like we do every year, and Miss Loretta Holder was our principal. She's not able to be with us to give this report, so I'm kind of doing the best I can. I'm a poor excuse for her, but I'll do what I can here. First thing we want to say is that we had it at Loma Vista Elementary School, as you saw on the previous slide. It went from June 7th through July 2nd. These are some of the people. ESY is always a huge collaboration between many different departments in the district. And so these are some of the people on the team that really helped put it together, between warehouse and HR and M&O, getting us people to be there and help clean the school. It's really a group effort. So there's a lot of people that we wanted to thank, and so we just wanted to call that out a little bit. On the next slide, you can see that we had 79 staff members, and we had about 100 students there. The pictures that you can see there, there's Ms. Holder with our school psychologist, George Loftus, and myself and our school secretary that was there. This is an idea of what the schedule was. We had 2 sessions a day in preschool. We actually had 3 sessions a day in preschool and 2 sessions a day at other grades. And so because we wanted to allow for time for cleaning and making sure that everything was set up for another amount of kids, each session went for about an hour. So we were able to see a lot of kids in rotation. TK through 8 had 2 sessions per day. And this is different than we normally do. Normally, without COVID restrictions, we would have had one longer session per day for each student. These were the services that we provided. So we provided everything we do during the regular school year. There was also nursing services. There was food there that kids could take and grab and go with it. Actually, we didn't need to provide. We provided snacks. We didn't need to provide lunch. So there was a lot of collaboration there, as we were saying before. Here's some of the examples of the activities that we offered. So we did structured literacy. That's for kids that need support with phonological processing, like the Wilson program that we do. And so Miss Lull is there, you can see during structured literacy. We did yoga. There was always a lot of staff out in the front of Loma Vista for pickups and drop-offs. So a lot of support there. There's just some pictures of people in the classroom and kids working together. And you can see in one of those a bit of some of the barriers and dividers that we used. Give you an example of that. Since the Olympics are coming this year, there was a lot of Olympic lessons. So there's a lot of ways to teach a lot of different concepts through the use of the Olympics. I got to watch a lot of those lessons. That was really fun. Preschool, you can see how the preschoolers were working together yet separately. Our preschoolers are they have intensive needs, so we kind of put them in their own space, and there was a lot of one-to-one work with them. We also continued our social communication program. So we had a really nice middle school group of kids just socializing with each other, playing structured games, working on social skills. So that was something new for us. And they also did water polo. And so that's a picture of them in the pool at the bottom. There was a lot of outdoor activities, obviously like we always do during the summer, try to get out as much as we can. And here's some pictures of the playground and kids being outside, socially distanced, usually in very small groups, but they enjoyed getting outside as they always do during ESY. So we just want to, I really want to give a shout out to all of the hardworking teachers and instructional aides that worked over ESY, and people kind of went right from the school year right to ESY like they do every year, but after this school year, we're especially thankful that people were willing to do that. And then the last picture is just a group picture of all of our ESY staff. And that said, I'll turn it over to my colleague, Ms. Hay, to talk about summer school and our summer school programs.
Thank you. Bree, did you want to cast your presentation?
Yes.
Okay, then I'll stop.
Good evening, board. I'm Bree Haig. I am actually the current coordinator of alternative education,
Hey, Bree,
but I was one of the principals of
Bree,
summer
can
school.
you move the microphone and try to get your
Speak right into
That better. Sorry.
it. You have to turn it on.
Well, looks like it's on.
Okay.
You get up and slap them.
Used to.
Okay, so this year we got to have general education summer school, which was really great. We had funds for that this summer, and so this was our first year in a while that we had summer school. And so ours was a little shorter. Ours was 12 days long. It ran from June 7th to June 24th. Our schedule was Monday through Thursday, and it was 3 hours a day, an hour and a half of language arts and an hour and a half of math. And in the middle school, most 6th and 7th graders had 2 teachers, one for language arts and math, and 8th grade had a self-contained language arts and math class. So summer school setup is huge, and it takes a lot of help and support to do so. So we really wanted to thank everyone who played a part in making this possible for us. Michael Bowen and Chris really spearheaded it for us, and I get to take it over next year, so I'm really excited. But we had amazing teachers and support staff, and everyone at the district office who helped contributed to make it happen. And we really wanted to thank everyone because it was a really successful summer school program, and it wouldn't have been possible without everyone. So we had 3 sites that we housed summer school this year, 2 elementary school sites, Marsh Creek and Mary Casey Black. Teresa DeAlfonso was one of our elementary principals. Maria Gonzalez was our other elementary principal at Mary Casey Black, and then I was the principal at Edna Hill Middle School. At Marsh Creek, there were 140 students that attended summer school. At Mary Casey Black, 160 students, and at Edna Hill, we had 81 students. We sent invites to 1,629 students total to start. We ended up with 381 students enrolled in all 3 of our sites. Our class sizes were small. We kept them at 15, but most of them had about 12 students in each class, which made it a really nice intervention type experience for our students.
And before you go.
Yep.
Was there reasons, did the parents or whoever give reasons why they didn't want to have their kids?
No, did not really, some, had summer plans or, their other commitments. So we, and then part of that was staffing, we didn't have, also, staffing, we had to make sure we had staffing with the class size too. But the ones who didn't attend just said they had other plans or they were going to do other things or they had summer commitments. It was only 12 days. Some of them had like a week vacation. And so that really took it down to 2 weeks, so 8 days. And so that made it difficult.
Right, thank you.
Yeah. We had an amazing summer school staff. I know my teachers at the middle school I can speak for were truly amazing, and I have one of them here today. And it was just a really great experience. We had 3 principals, 3 secretaries, 37 teachers, 7 instructional aides. We were fortunate to have 2 on-site substitute teachers the entire time, and so if they weren't needed to sub, they could be in classrooms with students who had IEPs and could help that extra support. So that was really amazing. We had an awesome custodial team, and then we had 2 district nurses who shared the responsibility, making sure everybody had their health plans and all the teachers were notified of student needs. So some of our highlights for summer school, we had students who were not yet at grade level, and they had extra learning time in English, language arts, and math. Our coaches were amazing in putting together curriculum for our teachers, so it was ready-made curriculum, and they had time for PD to go over the curriculum and help them with that. And it was really pretty much a program that was handed to them, and they could take that and use that with such short notice. So it was really great. We also built in social emotional learning into our curriculum. We had a focus on supporting learning in most topics of ELA and math for students at the previous grade level. We also had designated EL instruction and support for our English language learners. As you walked through classrooms, you saw students were engaged and they had hands-on experience. And our class sizes are really small to allow teachers to connect with students. And really that was a huge focus for us in summer school, was really that connection. Some of those students did not come back hybrid, and that was their first time back. And I had talked to a few families who said, we didn't bring them back hybrid, but we wanted to just kind of start with a smaller class size and kind of see what that was like. It was a short period of the day, and everyone really had a great experience. And then these are just some pictures of our 3 sites and the students working and the teachers. Students working hard and having fun. And I would say that all of the teachers commented how much, how some of them had never taught summer school in the past, and they said, gosh, if I would have known what this was like, I would have done this before. And they just said it was such a great experience. So these are just some pictures that I wanted to share of students working and the teachers teaching. We got to get outside. One of my teachers had a daily time where she would walk with the kids, just do a lap around the school every day to get, just walk around, and that was really great. And with students outside and working in the classroom. And I just wanted to conclude that it was really a successful summer school experience. We did a progress report at the end. Every teacher did a progress report that they sent home with the students, as well as to their home school, so they could talk about what they did during the summer and their learning, which was great as well. Just as we walked through classrooms, we saw collaborative conversations, lots of smiles. Even in my middle school, there was all the students seemed happy to be there, and I would greet them every morning, and it was just really neat to talk to them. There was active participation, student engagement, teachers were connecting with students, and just students connecting with other students, and just seeing the joy of being back in the classroom made it so worthwhile. And so I know I'm really excited about next year and getting a start in that and getting prepared for summer school next year. And I think that it was such a smooth transition, and the summer school was so successful that I think that we would have many teachers come back to do it again because it was so successful.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Awesome job.
Thank you.
Everybody.
Thank you so much, Bree. Just as a reminder, because I want to keep saying this throughout the year, is this is part of the plan that the board approved for 2 years, right? So we have funding, one-time money that's available for 2 years that's provided for this program. So provided for this year and next year, and then we won't have that money anymore. So it's been great to be able to have these opportunities for kids as we go forward.
Thank you. That was just an information item. Moving along to 10.4, the board governance handbook review.
Yeah, so just as a reminder, this is supposed to be an agenda item for us every year, is the blue books that are here, the binders, and the work that we've done in the past. It's been a while since we revisited them, and with once Stephanie's back, it might be something that we consider in coming back together and having an opportunity to maybe have a special session and walk through them together. So that might be something that I suggest as we go forward. But for here, they're here for you. They have our current goals for this year, as well as reference material, board policies, different agreements and statements inside of how we work together.
Thank you. Again, information item. Chris has a enrollment update for us on 10.5.
Good evening, board. I take no credit for the increased enrollment in Ramen 7. Not encourage anyone to move to Brentwood in the last 6 months, so, but they certainly have. It's all due to our growth in the area. And you know that families moved out last year. We lost about 100 students out of state, we lost about 100 within the state, and about 100 that went to private schools and homeschools. We haven't regained all of them, we've regained a lot of them. And so last time that I was here, just less than a month ago, since then we've added 4 classrooms. So we've had that much growth. So we added a second grade to Brentwood Elementary School, a kindergarten to Lone Vista, a first grade to Cray, and a second grade to Pioneer. So I really want to thank those principals and their staff for supporting that and getting on board and getting selecting teachers and getting classrooms ready and things like that. So as you remember, about 2 months ago, we collapsed 4 kindergarten classrooms because we weren't seeing the growth. And now we've added one of those kindergarten classrooms back. So that says something. Because as you know, we tend to lose more 8th graders than we do kindergartners coming in. And at this point, we have 788 kindergartners enrolled in the district, and we have space for only 12. And whereas a month ago, we had space for about 2. So by adding that class, we made a huge difference. We're still monitoring our middle school. Last time I was here, we were over-enrolled in 7th grade by about 27 students. That's now turned to 19, and we have not added, so we have students leaving. And we are going to wait and monitor that, and we expect that we'll probably have some students that move out. Parents always let us know they move in, they don't always let us know that they move away. So we're going to continue to monitor that situation. The other one to watch is first grade, because it seems like everyone that's moved in Brentwood has a first grader or a third grader, a first grader or a 7th grader, a first grader or a 6th grader. So but they all seem to have first graders. So that is the hotbed, and that is why we've had 3 first grade classrooms since February, or March, I should say. So our homeschool and our independent study program is also growing. We have 45 students in the homeschool to date. We have about 23 independent study students, and Bree will tell me that we have about 20 more in the books that parents are interested. They have a form in their hand, they're filling it out. They're in the process of joining either the independent study or the homeschool. Remember that the difference is in the homeschool that the parent is the one providing the instruction, we're supporting that, and then in independent study, we're the ones providing the instruction. However, the state's guidelines that just came down for independent study really lumps all of it together. So there will be synchronous and asynchronous instruction going on for our homeschool and our independent study program. So they'll look very, very similar, even though the parent will be responsible for the homeschool. We'll have more of a participation in that program, I guess is the best way for me to put that. We have 4 students in our home hospital program. I expect that overall in our alt ed program, we should have 100 students by the first day of school. So, and that takes off some of the students coming from the other school sites, but obviously at 100, that's not really significant, but it's significant enough for us to add another teacher to our alt ed program. So a lot going on, and we're going to continue to monitor and support families as they move in. And we know that we have a lot of families calling us saying, I'm moving to Brentwood in September, I'm moving to Brentwood in the end of August, can I enroll now? And now we gotta get that contract, and we have to have this documentation that you are actually moving here before we do that. So a lot happening in enrollment. Any questions for me?
How many alt ed teachers do we currently have?
We currently have 2 teachers that are in the alt ed program, that are alt ed teachers, and then we have 2 substitutes. And I say that because the 2 substitutes is how we typically have ran the independent study program in the past, because it's such a flexible program. 3 years ago, we had 25 students total in that program. So at the most, at one time. So we have 2 teachers that are substitutes that usually take on a few students at a time. They're willing to take on more. So capacity overall is about 75 to 80 students. So that's why we're adding that additional teacher.
And what's the breakdown elementary versus middle school?
Oh, that's a great question. So about 20% is middle school and the rest are elementary school. Correct me if I'm wrong, Bree. Does that sound about right?
I was thinking 2/3, 1/3, yeah.
2/3, 1/3, all right. 75, 25, I do the math for that.
That's like 33 seconds.
33 seconds. Yeah, thank you.
No, thank you very much.
Yeah. You lose my hand.
Mine too.
Any questions?
Any other questions? Thank you so much.
Thank you.
That was an information
Take credit.
item. The next one also is an information item. Assuming this is Ramen, update on Metro B.
It is.
And unfortunately, this was not in your packet as things are changing and they've changed a lot in the last week. So I'm gonna walk through just a couple of things. So this is more of just a picture show, and not a lot about finance. So I hope you enjoy along with me. So I want to walk through the Measure B projects that are really have happened and are occurring as we speak during the summer. If you remember, this was back just in June. The beautiful field out on the staff parking or out on the city parking lot outside of Bristow looks a little different now. So this was before. You can see they did some of the grading. It looked like this just a couple of days ago. They've already got it flat. They've got it lime treated, and there's a gravel bed across the top to keep it sealed. And now we wait for DSA to approve the next phase of construction. So they have other work to do, and there's still some work on the parking lot, and they got to get rid of all the dirt. Just another view of that. Just cool to see what's going on. They've now re-asphalted the fire lane, so fire department doesn't pick on us about not getting fire trucks on campus. And working very closely, thankfully, with John and Alexandria at Bristow to make sure everything's going smooth for the school site activities. And right now, I'm really pleased with Broward. They're communicating really well. They react really well, and they're walking the sites with the staff.
Ramen, is that going to be standalone?
Standalone.
Is it?
Yeah, it's a standalone building. Yeah, it's going to basically where that gray, see the gray square, that's
So
where
there's
the
no
theater's going to
connection
go there.
to the.
No, there'll be a walkway, but no covered walkway, because we have a fire lane and other things. We looked at that. It creates other issues. Honestly, if we would have connected to one of our buildings, we would have had to improve the ADA for that whole building. So if we connected it to the gym, we would have been improving the whole ADA for the whole gym, which would have been probably another $1 million more.
Thank you.
That's not why we didn't do it. We needed the space to do it right. Looking at the quad, again, this was probably back in the spring, looking out of the lower quad, Bristow, and you can watch John back here. You know, he liked this, but you know, there's things that all the lunch tables are crammed over to the side. So they tore it apart dramatically. And fortunately, John didn't see some of this. Otherwise, he'd probably been a lot nervous earlier in the summer. And so this was just over a week ago, it looked like this. They got the gravel down. They've got all the posts in for the shade structure that's going to go out there. Also just a nice picture of the Bristol campus. Thank you. And this was this morning. So they got all the concrete laid. By this afternoon, they painted all of the columns, and they're already starting the steel work for the shade. So they've stated that all the steel work will be done, and they have a supply chain issue. So they don't have all the boards for the shade, but it's supposed to be here on Monday, and they're guaranteeing by the first day of school, the shade structure will be complete for John, and there'll be no shade safety issues, and they'll move out to the other construction projects. So John feels much better today, much better than he did a week ago when he was looking at the construction disaster out there and asked me, are they going to be done? It was a very appropriate question at the time, and so Broward's been working really closely with the staff about what's happening. And I think they had 6th graders walking around the edges, looking at all the craziness. And there you can see the posts have been primed into some of the steel is up, and sort of an angle of what the courtyard looks like now. And that's going to be tables underneath shade. So I know John's quite excited about getting ready to use that. So Adams was another project. So I'm sorry, I got the wrong locker room up there. This is the Adams locker room. This is what it looked like just as school ended. Just about a month later, they'd torn everything out and they already had the walls up. So they're moving along pretty fast. And of course, gutted the complete inside, did some deconstructive work. This is on the girls' side where the locker room is going to be pushed through into a storeroom. They're already got the wall up. The concrete's already poured inside. They should be finishing the outside concrete tomorrow and basically have the fence back out of the way. They're going to be finishing this. They're not going to be really, really soon, but they're working really fast. They got to work. They got to follow all the inspection rules, do all those things. But really impressed with their attitude about getting stuff done. And now you can see the walls are done. The roof is already on it. That's done. So they're moving right along. I talked to one of the workers the other day. They're waiting for the doors to arrive so they can do all the rest of the framing. Once the doors are done, they'll be doing all the scratch coats, and that'll be moving along really fast. So excited out there. The other one that actually surprised all of us, we didn't expect this till October break, is the theater seating is already here. And so you can see all the I can't even think what those are called. All the staging is there, ready to go. They are waiting for the delivery of the seats, which will get here the first week of August. And then the seats will be installed about 2 months ahead of their projected schedule. So we're excited about that. That gives you a preview of what it looks like. And they're pushed back in case the site needs them between now and then. But Lauren and Andrew, and again, they've been working with Lauren and Albert out there on what's going on, and site's good, but not using this for a while. The other one at Bristow, a separate project, is we have at the other end of the quad, we had this round concrete area that is more of a mud pit in one part of the year and then a dust pit in the other part of the year. So with John's permission, we worked through, well, with John's cooperation and I think happiness, we concreted that and we left the tree. We need to clean up the tree basin, but he'll be able to put some tables or chairs out there and do some different things and be able to do it without worrying about mud and crud getting everywhere. So, and I saw his custodian the other day, and the custodian just can't be happier. He's like, I'll just say that. And some other work out in front of Bristow. We had some dirt over here and some areas that just was kind of like, it wasn't growing anything. It was hard to get water to, so we've concreted it in, filled it in so it's a nice walkway. And they're replacing the bars that used to be at the back in the weird spots, and now it's at the front, and a new tree well. So that was getting finished today. So that's all done for the start of school. Another project going on is at the Ron Nunn Kinderyard. You all remember this, right? This is what it looked like just a couple days after school. Amy just sort of closed her eyes to walk the other way. Just a couple of days ago, it looked like this. So they did a spanking job on getting it all done. Really impressed with the contractor there. Delivery supply chain has affected the actual equipment. It's supposed to get here the first week of school. So we've got about 3 weeks or 4 weeks to go. Amy's being very patient in the process, but it's supply chain issues. So the shed's been moved. This is all new concrete out here. Moved all the HVAC, took some trees out. It looks really nice. I'm more excited about seeing what the play structure there and everything ready to go. And you can see that we were able to save the tree. We put a little fence around it, protects the trees, also keeps the kids corralled, get the storage shed back there. And now they're sort of, I'm not going to say free to roam, but they're much freer, easier to monitor out there. Right now we have a temporary fence, and we've provided some stuff to go around the bottom to keep the tripping hazards. So that's what it looks like right now. I would say education, we're not really happy with it, but it is what it is. We know we've been communicating all the way along the timelines. Another project is we started a project back in the spring of working basically on school district-wide, school by school. The picture on the left, they're different bathrooms, but the picture on the left is what most of our bathrooms started to look like. Old epoxy floors, 10 and 15 years old, just started to show their wear and tear. The one on the right is what they're done, what it looks like when it's finished. So it's a one single color, easy to clean. It's non-slip, so it's all good. Totally happy with it. The custodians are happy with it, and we're continuing to work there. And we've done Adams, Cray. They're working on Guerin right now. They got to go finish one last coat at Cray, and they've also finished at the Hill. And we're going to continue to work through all the schools during break time. It takes about 6 or 7 days to get a whole school done, and it basically closes the bathroom, so we can't do it when school's in session. So we got 1 or 2 schools slated for October break. 3 projects, 3 schools got asphalt slurry. This is a picture of the Mary Casey site. And I know Maria's pretty excited about that. It looks pretty cool, solved a lot of problems. And I got to give credit to their crew, is they slurried the site without touching the United States flag. So you can see the footprints around it. So there was some cleanup going on, but I'm not sure that was the parent group or what, but it looks pretty slick out there. And then we also did it at Pioneer. There's a new story at Pioneer. Sorry, wrong time of day, so it just doesn't pop like it is. But Casey's also amazed. And then we have Edna Hill also got some slurry. So the upper and lower courts look awesome at Edna Hill. And so we're pretty excited about that. And last one is part of the project that Bristow included some ADA requirements in the front of the school in terms of, they call it path of travel to school. So you can see that this is just 2 of the 3 slots they corrected just to get ADA access into the front of the school. And that's all been cleaned up. It's ready to go. In fact, I saw that Bristow staff was already parked back in all the regular slots right over there. So we're all excited, ready to go for school there. Last one I think I have is we took over Ron Nunn's landscaping, started to look pretty tired out front. So it's now looking much better. They're going to come back and do some weed abatement issues to take care of some of the final issues and some irrigation issues, but that's coming along. And with the last one is we added a fence around the bioswale in the hill just to keep the kids out of it. For some reason, Miss Job didn't quite trust all the middle school kids. It's just they wouldn't jump down in there and push kids in there, and I agreed with her. So we got the fence, and maintenance will be going through this week to clean out the rest of the brush that's in there.
What is that? I'm sorry.
So on the back of the science building, there's a bioswale, which is what captures all the runoff from the buildings. The water, we can't dump it in the gutter, we can't put it down the sewer anymore. It actually has to go into a bioswale and drain into the ground. So it's called a bioswale. So it's about 20 feet by 20 feet. It's a depression in the ground. It's basically an invitation to middle schoolers to go jump in it. So, I heard the 3 middle school people back there laughing. Yeah, that's true. So, and that'll be taken care of. And I'm sorry, last one is we've extended the Wi-Fi emitters on the outside of the middle school, so the PE teachers have better Wi-Fi signals outside for all the things they're doing with one-to-one. And just a thanks to everyone, our construction management crew, RGMK, Ramon, Primo, and John have been working really hard all summer, communicating with their school sites. Broward Construction's done a wonderful job. Can't say enough about them. And maintenance and operations been busy out there in the middle of all of that. And I'm forgetting a lot of people. There's just been a lot of stuff going on. And we're really excited about getting ready for school start. Thanks. Be glad to answer any questions.
I went out today and it's amazing to see the changes.
Yeah, I was at Bristol today as well.
It's great.
Coming along quickly.
They actually took the drains off the drains in the parking lots and vacuumed them out, cleaned them out by hand, and put the screens in with everything around them. So you see the new things around the drains. They actually are proactive about getting all that done. So that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. These are action items, the next several. 10.7, approval tentative agreement with confidential / supervisory employees.
I'm going to give you a highlight of the next 1, 2, 3 items. First, and then, so 10.7, 10.8, 10.9, and then we're going to skip over 10.10 CSCA. We need to pull that. And so these are agreements with each of our employee associations or groups in reflection of the agreement reached with BGA in June to provide the same salary increase of a 2.25 retroactive to July 1, 2020. So this is an impact on the 20, mostly adjusting our salary schedules for the 2020, 2021 school year going into this year, as well as a 1% off schedule payment to each of the individuals. And then the other primary thing was around benefits and some changes for families where both adults or spouses in the family or domestic partners work for the district. You'll see a little bit of difference with the classified liaison committee. BGA had an item that was reflective of just something that benefited their group. We closed a step. We moved the bottom step on their salary schedule from 30 to 20, and there was a dollar equivalency to that. And the classified liaison committee had a similar concern around the salary schedule adjustment for library clerks. It didn't have the same percent steps as some of the other salaries. And so we used that equivalent percentage to adjust that for them.
And Roxanne, I neglected the full 10 at the
Okay.
beginning, so if you could just say a quick thing about that.
So, 1010 CSEA, there was some miscommunication between CSA and myself where it was indicated to me that they were going to vote last night. And then I was subsequently informed that they were not. And so we do not yet have an agreement with CSEA. We're working to schedule another date to try to come to an agreement with them. And hopefully, we'll be able to bring that for you in August so that the CSEA employees have the benefit of the increased salary as everyone else.
So Nicole, if you could make a note to, there is actually a change, because originally I said there was no change.
Yep.
All right,
We don't need a motion.
so let's do each separately. 10.7, approval of tentative agreement.
I move that we approve 10.7, approval of tentative agreement with confidential supervisory employees.
And a second, please.
A second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor of approving 10.7 tentative agreement of confidential / supervisory employees, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? 4-0. 10.8, approval of tentative agreement with management employees. I'll have a motion.
I move that we approve item 10.8, the approval of tentative agreement with management employees.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. All those in favor of approving 10.8 tentative agreement with management employees, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? 4-0. 10.9,
I move that we approve item 10.9, the approval of tentative agreement with classified liaison committee.
Second.
been moved and seconded. All those in favor of 10.9, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? 4-0. And 10's been approved. And we're at 10.11.
So 1011 is a reflection of those same agreements with the three contracted employees.
I'll take a motion in a second on 10.11.
It's all right.
I'll take a
Motion to
motion.
approve 10.11, approval of tentative agreement with contract employees.
Second.
We have a move in 2 seconds. All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Awesome. And opposed? None. 4-0. 10.12. At this point, I'd like to discuss it in public for now.
You want to pull it?
Well, can we discuss it openly right now? What if we would like?
Okay, let's forget the pulling it. I'd like to make a recommendation that we increase the pay to $200 for our substitutes, and then after they make the threshold, I think it's 19 days, correct me if I'm wrong.
19 consecutive.
Is it 19?
The long-term rate is, yes, it's after 19 consecutive days.
So are we talking about improving the daily rate as well as the premium rate, matching those, or?
So the daily rate to 200?
Daily rate to 200, and then the long-term rate to 225. Is what I would like to suggest.
If no one has a problem with that, I would like to put this one in a motion with that change, that we increase those two amounts. So I move that we accept item 10.12, increase in substitute.
Yeah, can we clarify
I'm sorry,
So
I'm
there's some
sorry.
additional columns on this, or rows on this chart that aren't addressed in that motion, and
Okay,
then
thank
people
you,
would.
thank you.
So if I could just,
Break it
maybe go
down.
by step by
I didn't mean
step.
to roll for
So
you.
thinking, we have four different, well, really three, but, 3 rates: a daily rate, then a rate for people, once they've worked 35 days in any single school year for us, they get an increase in pay. So loyalty to us and working for us gives you a little bit, so boost after 35 days. And that's the same rate we also pay to eligible retirees if they come back and sub. And then we have a long-term rate, and that's essentially when a substitute is now replacing a teacher after 19
I would like
consecutive
to see
days.
$25 added to each column.
So then,
So I'll break it down right now, you can clarify.
okay,
So the daily rate is presently on this at 175. I would like to see that changed to 200. The premium rate, subs who work more than 35 days in a single school year, I would like to see that go to 225. I would also like to see the eligible retirees of DUSD get paid 225 as an incentive, and the long-term rate after 19 consecutive days in the same assignment also go to 225.
So what you're asking is that when someone subs day to day, they receive the same amount as someone who's consecutive? Can I explain the difference between those two?
Yeah,
And the demands on the employee?
Yeah, that'd be good.
So when a substitute takes over for a teacher after 19 consecutive days, it is typical that at that point, the substitute is now the person planning all of the lessons, reading all of the work,
Okay.
completing all of any documents that need to be doing, regular communication with parents. They've taken over as the teacher.
So what you're sharing is there's more responsibility.
Much more responsibility than the substitute who works 35 days individually here, there, or even 3 to 4 days in one place and 3 to 4 days in that other place. There's a lot more demand on them. So
Yeah, I
Would we
is
want
that
to just
should
raise
be a
that all
higher
by
range.
25?
I would raise each one of them 25 is what.
Well, no, because
So then you're at 200, 215, 215.
Yeah,
So be-
200, 215,
that's right.
215, and 225.
okay, say that again one more time.
Yep.
So the daily
200,
rate is 200.
215, 215.
Premium rate is 215.
No, yeah.
Eligible retirees of BUSD will be 215, and the long-term rate will be 225, so they're still right above there.
Okay, that makes sense. Okay, let's,
Shall I try the motion again?
Sure, you can just do it with the 25 if you want.
Okay,
That's how we're doing.
we recommend for the motion on this item, but we will change the 4 columns, each up 25 more. So it's 200, 215, 215, and 220.
I'll second.
moved and seconded. All those in favor of the new stipulation? All those in favor of the new stipulation signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The rate has been changed officially to that.
Thank you.
Thank you. The Deer Ridge Landscaping and Lighting Assessment District.
So the only thing before that, Mr. President, is that there's
Oh,
some
I'm
first
sorry.
readings of board policy, they just carry over that page.
My bad.
That's okay.
10.13, first reading of board policy, board bylaw, administrative regulation exhibits, which include EX 1113, all the way down to AR 5141.26. We have to open it up for,
These are just first readings as per, so if you have, and what we've been doing is Nicole's been providing the summary of what the changes are. If there's no issues, then they'll come forward to you one more time for action at your next meeting.
okay. Anybody got any questions on that?
No.
And now we'll go to 10.14, the Deer Ridge Landscape and Lighting Assessment District.
So we wanted to bring this forward to you. I know you had an opportunity to read it. The city council and the residents of Deer Ridge are proposing the formation of a landscape and lighting district to deal with the closure of the Deer Ridge Golf Course. In forming that, they need to get a vote, and the vote is based on landowners out there. So you can be, if you're a house, there's a cost per house that's about $90 a year. If you're not a house in that area, there's a cost of, I believe it's about $269 an acre. And so because Cray Elementary is caught up in that school's it's about 10 acres, more or less it's about $2,800. So you as the board have one collective vote in this, in terms of what you want to represent back, but you don't need to vote today, which is why it was brought for an information item. I didn't know if there was any more information or clarification that you wanted as a school board from the city.
So when did we get this from them?
We could,
3 days
Wednesday of
before.
last week?
Yeah.
Wednesday of last week.
A week ago?
It's my opinion that we should likely be exempt from this, and I would like us to go back to city and request an exemption.
Yeah, I think that we should be an exemption, however, we're not voting on the issue as to whether it should be approved or not. We'll just that we should be excluded. That's my.
And obviously, what's the deadline for payment?
Yeah, so the deadline for payment, I think the deadline for vote is August, it's after our next board meeting. So why we brought it this time is we could bring it to the next board meeting, and I can update you at that point. If there's no progress at that point, I'll have to bring it as an action item for you to consider voting on it. But what I'm hearing, and I just want to make sure I heard it from everybody, is you want me to ask the city to see if there's a way that we can be exempted from it?
Correct.
As a result, really that? Okay. Do that. I'll let you know how it goes.
And that was an information item. Board member comment, future agenda items, does anybody have anything they'd like to speak? And our next board meeting is August 18th, looking forward to it. And for all you guys, hopefully we'll have an extremely smooth opening. A lot of smiling faces, both on the kids and the parents. One can dream. So I'm hoping so. I think we all are. So
Hey, welcome back, all of you.
you guys all had a great summer. It seems like we just did this yesterday, but look at the bright side. Hopefully it won't be like last year. So thank you guys so much. In all honesty, appreciate it big time. Enjoy your raises. Thank you. With that being said, the next regular board meeting will be held on August 18th, 2021 at 6 p.m. for closed session. With that, I'd like to close the board meeting. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. Thank you.